We're looking at a brief series of 3 sermons. Today is the last one. It concludes this idea of loss. And like so many times in the Lord's Word, God uses 3, or this concept of Trinity or triune, in order to convey a message. And this is the 3rd in a series of short talks or parables that the Lord gives to talk about loss. In the first one, there was a man who happened to have 100 sheep. We can assume he was either the owner or a shepherd. And it says he has these 100 sheep. One of them goes missing. He leaves the 99 and goes looking for that one lost sheep until he finds it. And then when he finds it, there is a rejoicing. He puts that sheep on his shoulders and he comes home. And he invites his friends and neighbors to come over and celebrate. And the idea in this first story is that the loss represented by the one sheep is not that significant relative to the whole. It's 99 sheep, one's missing, and we have the sense that 100 is somehow complete or full. And that's literally its representation and its meaning in Scripture. It represents what is whole, a full complement of ideas. And if we have 100 cents, say, like that's $1, and we lose 1 penny, not such a big deal, but important enough for this person to go out and look. Behind this very simplistic parable or story is this idea that the Lord cares absolutely about something that is absent or missing in our spiritual life. When we have lost something, and it represents this idea of innocence. Sheep always represent beautiful, innocent, holistic, wonderful ideas, and especially feelings. When we think about this one missing sheep, we really want to be thinking about this idea of a missing affection, especially innocence. And it's important enough that this owner, this shepherd, goes out and he finds this state, this feeling, this emotion, and he brings it back into the whole. That's coming back into the rest of the flock, and we have reunification, or it's complete again. And with that completeness, there is a rejoicing, there's a happiness, there's a delight, there is great affection. In the second story, a woman, it says, has 10 coins. And today I have 10 coins that are still wrapped. These happen to be Kennedy half dollars from 1978. And I have 10 of them. And it says these were silver coins. And if one goes missing, little bit more impactful, because now we are 10%. And once again, 10, this idea of full or complete or a full complement. There's a reason why there were 10 commandments. 10 has this idea of being a complete collection of ideas sufficient to bring about our spiritual growth and regeneration. And when something goes missing here, it becomes more significant. In this story, it says there was a woman who has these 10 coins. And immediately we should be thinking about some kind of affection. Women represent the affectional aspect. And when we trying to grow and regenerate, we have a sense, a feeling that something's wrong. One of her coins is missing. There's some connection with God that is absent, that's not a part of the whole. And it says she does 3 things. And again, this idea of trine or trinity shows up. The first thing she does is she lights a candle. We need to be able to see. And then it says she sweeps, getting rid of the negativity or the aspects that stand in the way of the Lord's presence. And I love this idea of getting rid of garbage so that God and we, through our spiritual growth and development, can fill it with good things. She sweeps, and then she seeks diligently. Light the candle, sweep the house, seek. And what I love about this idea of sweeping and cleaning up is, what does it look like when we clean up our side of the street? We can't do this for other people. They may be doing wrong things, terrible things, bad things out there in the world. It's not our job to take care of their side of the street. We sweep our street. We sweep our house. From this affection that realizes something's missing. And it says, then she finds her coin and she has great delight. She invites her friends and neighbors, come and rejoice with me because I've found my missing coin. The point here in this second story is the element of loss is greater. Started out with 1%, now we are 10%. The element of loss is greater. And oftentimes what we lose in our sense of innocence or our sense of connection with the Lord as we grow up is what comes in is some apathy. Sometimes when things go wrong in life and we maybe have, God, why did you let this happen to me? We get into that kind of thinking, or we get a little bit apathetic and we say, I'm not so sure about this God thing. We get into a place where we become a little bit cynical. Seems to me like, the states of negativity, the hells, the evil one, the devil seems to be doing a far greater job in this world than God, and we get a little bit cynical, and we lose that coin. How powerful is that coin when we get over that sense of cynicism, that state of negativity, and we say, Lord, I want to feel that sense of joy that I felt as a little kid when I had such complete trust in your providence, when I just felt like the world was an okay place, that I had this powerful love and affection of my parents, my guardians, who were taking care of me. That sense where we had perhaps a phenomenal teacher in school, someone that we could go to. Or we had that incredible professor in college that seemed to make extra special time or place for us. Or we had that family member that mattered. Could be a parent, a grandparent. Someone that was there for us in our difficult times. Reunification. And she invites her friends and neighbors and say, come and rejoice with me. The end result of this finding is a rejoicing, a delight, and an enthusiasm, an affection for living. In the last story today, the sense of loss becomes profound. It talks about a man, and it always begs the question, who's the man? Right? There's a man, and he has 2 sons. And what the man offers, what's on offer here is everything that I have. His kingdom, his net worth. And he says, I'm giving it to you. The younger son comes to the father and he says to him, I think it's a really good idea at this point in my life that you just, instead of me waiting, you give it to me all now. And what's amazing is the father says, no problem. And he gives him that portion of the property that's his. He gives it to him. And the son says, well, this is really great. I'm very enthusiastic about this great inheritance that I just got. I'm going to take off now. Thanks for your help. I'm out of here. And he goes off, it says, to a far country. He goes off to a distant land, and there, through wasteful, or it's sometimes described as prodigal living, he blows through his inheritance. And after a period of time, he's got no money, and he suddenly realizes, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. I need income. I need food. What am I going to do? This is a strange place. I don't know people here. People were very quick to surround him when he had the goody-goodies. And when the goody-goodies disappear, everyone abandons him. So in other words, these were not friends. These were people who were only associating with him because of his stuff, not because of his person. And this is the problem with the world. The world and the states of negativity, the hells, if you will, don't actually care about you. They care about divesting you of any goodness and any value that you have, and they will leave you desolate. So in this story, this man suddenly finds himself in great need, and he says, I don't know what I'm going to do. I know what I'll do. I will go and try and find someone that'll provide me some food if I'm willing to be a slave, a laborer in his world. And he does that. He does that. He goes and he assigns himself, it says, to a local citizen, someone who's part of this community, this place. He aligns himself with him, and the man says, I want you to go into my pig pens, and I want you to feed the pigs. Now, we have to stop here in the story for 1 minute. I don't know how much you know about the Jewish faith, but eating pork is not on the agenda. He's being told, you need to go into the pig pens and feed the pigs. This is perhaps one of the most dehumanizing, low places that a Jewish man could go. He's been asked to go basically into the pit of despair. You're in this low place, your job is to feed the pigs, and he says he would gladly have filled his belly with the very food that he was feeding to the pigs. And in this place, and I love these words, pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, he comes into this place of brokenness, and he says, in a moment of clarity, he says, you know, the servants of my father's house have it vastly better off than I do right now. I think I need to go home. I think I need to go back to my father and say, forgive me, for I have sinned. I've sinned against you and the household and everything. I want to be a servant in your house. I would rather work for you, where I know that the servants that you have are well cared for. They are well compromised. They are given valuable and useful money for the service that they do. They are well compensated. What does it look like to feel like, you know, if the best thing in life can be just to be well compensated for what we do? But here's where the story gets intriguing. In this moment of clarity, and again, I just love this idea. What does it look like when the light shines through the kink of our spiritual, emotional, and mental defenses? The light shines just enough for us to realize we need to make a change. This is no longer an acceptable lifestyle. I need to do something different. And in that moment of clarity, he comes to his senses. And oftentimes this window is very small. What does it look like when we actually come to hitting bottom? In a pigsty, with the pigs, filling our bellies with the very food that the pigs are eating. What does it look like to get out of the pigsty and come home? What does reunification look like? And what I love in this story, because it's different from the first two. In the first story, the sheep did no thing to find his way home. He's waiting out there in the middle of nowhere, and finally the owner or the shepherd arrives, finds him, picks him up, puts him on his shoulders, and brings him home. In the second story, the coin did no thing for reunification. It was just lying in some dark spot, right? hanging out by itself. And the woman lit the candle, she swept, and then she sought diligently and she found. And she did something. In this story, it's not the father that's going out. It's that which was lost, the missing element that suddenly says, I need to make a change. And in this story, we see the real profound thing that happens in loss. When someone who is hurting, someone who's in a state of incomprehensible demoralization, they're struggling with who they are, where they're at, what they're doing, and they say, I need the help of something greater than me. I need the help of something divine, something spiritual. The help comes from way without. I can't do this alone because left to my own devices, I wreck things. I spend the inheritance and I end up in a pigsty. Coming to his senses, he returns, and it says, here's where it's fascinating. The father was waiting. He was waiting. It says he was there and looking afar off, waiting for that son to return. And it says, and when he saw him, he went out and he met him. And he wasn't angry. He wasn't seeking to punish. He wasn't there to say, I cannot believe that you wasted everything that I gave you and you're back. Really? What he does is he says, bring a coat. This man was in need. Put a coat on him. He's got nothing on his feet. Put sandals on his feet. Put a ring on his finger. A ring symbolizes the power, a return to something of authority, of value. And he says, Father, I've sinned. I'm not even worthy that I should be called your son. I want to be like one of your servants. Put me to work because I know I'm going to be well recompensed for the work that I do. I'm going to be well compensated for the labor that I'm willing to put in. The father says, oh no, we need a celebration. This calls for a feast because my son was lost. When we are spiritually in a state of negativity, when we're feeling apathetic, when we're feeling like we are far from God and from our spiritual home and our connection, when we feel like we are lonely and isolated, and we come to our senses, we come to this place where we say, it was better with God. It was better in the Lord's house because there I am well cared for, I am loved, I am wanted, and I am welcomed. If this story teaches us anything, it teaches us that when we are willing to be a part of the spiritual program, when we are willing to grow along spiritual lines, that we are wanted, that we are welcomed, and that we are loved. And seeing his son afar off, he runs up to him and he embraces him. He kisses him on the neck. He says, I'm so glad you're home. Put on a garment. Put sandals on his feet. Put the ring on his finger. And then the story is one of those, but wait, there's more. Go out and kill the fatted calf. Let us rejoice and be merry because this my son was lost and is found. Bring him home. This profound story is about reunification, about when we have absolutely lost everything that is of use and of value in our spiritual growth and development, and we come to the place that says everything that the world has to offer has a time and a place and a use, but it is not enough to bring me spiritual connection. It's not enough to bring me to a place where I can feel like I am truly wanted, welcomed, and loved. In the world, people will go after your goody-goodies. No one is more interested in you and your money than the person who's trying to take your money from you. Not so in the Lord's house. Come unto me, all you who are labored and heavy laden. Come unto me. that my joy might remain in you and your joy might be full. My cup, it runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forevermore. In this story of reunification, as I read it, feel the emotion that's in the story, the feelings that the individuals have. Look at the profound generosity of the Father. He gives. And rather than being angry, harsh, and judgmental, he is warm, welcoming, and embracing. What does this fundamentally teach us about our own spiritual growth and development? What does this teach us about how we should, or maybe an option for a path towards spirituality, genuine spirituality? What does this look like? What does it look like when we feel like we have lost so much? I have some friends out in the world right now who have lost an incredible amount. People that I care about, that are dealing with such a sense of loss. What does it look like when we surround these people that are important to us with a sense of you matter to me, I care about you, I want the best for you? Please, don't let whatever is going on in your life take you away from the great life that the Maker wants to give you. I'm going to say this again because it's important. Please do not let the states of negativity and the challenges that you are currently going through take you away from the incredible life that Maker wants to give you. This was my son who was lost, and he is found. Come unto me. As I read this story, focus on the emotions, focus on the feelings that people are experiencing. We're not told what they are, but we can feel them in the very power of the scriptural words themselves. And experience, what does it feel like to come home? To come back under the warm, loving embrace and governance of the Maker, who is ever looking out, paying attention to, and in expectation of our returning, delighted when he sees us afar off. Who's willing to kill the fatted calf for a profound celebration, a festival, a feast in our honor, simply because we made the decision, I need to go back to the Father. I need to go back home. I need to come under the gentle, protective umbrella, the mantle of the love of God. What does it feel like when we have that sense? Welcome home. Today we read from the Gospel of Luke. You can find this in chapter 15. Beginning at verse 11. Page 552, thank you. Then he said, a certain man... I love how sort of nebulous or hidden is this idea of God. There was a certain man who had 2 sons. And the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me. It's interesting that father here is capitalized. Father, give to me the portion of goods that falls to me. So he divided them his livelihood. By the way, back of this story, if the son got his portion of the inheritance, everything that remains was the elder's son. Not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, and he journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his possessions with prodigal living. But when he had spent all, and arose a great famine in that land, he began to be in want. Then he went and he joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his field to feed the swine. And he would gladly have filled his stomach with the pods that the swine ate, and no one gave him anything. When he came to himself, the light of reason, when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and yet here I perish with hunger?" Hunger, food, always has to do with love. It's by no accident that the Lord was laid in a manger, the feeding place of horses. It's by no accident that the Lord was born in Bethlehem. Beth, the house. Lechem, bread. The house of bread. It says, the bread of heaven is he who has come into this world. He will ever be mindful of his covenant. Give us this day our daily bread. He needs the love. It's the food that's absent. And he comes to that awareness. And when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and yet here I perish with hunger? I will arise, and I will go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me one of your hired servants." And he arose, and he came to his father. But when he was still a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said to him, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father said to the servants, "Bring out the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his hand and put sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." And they began to be merry. This my son was dead and is alive, was lost and is found. Powerful words that talk about the sense of loss of our own spiritual essential characteristic that sometimes has traveled away from God, has moved away from that which is sacred and holy and beautiful, and we find ourselves in great want. What's interesting in this story is the man knew what was needed. He knew what was missing. He knew what he had a lack of. I'm missing the love and the kindness and the care of God. I'm missing the essential characteristics that are so important to my own growth and development. I need to go back. In the English language, we have this from the Latin, and it's in many other languages that follow any kind of Roman or Latin root or base. In the beginning of the word, when we throw in that tiny little prefix re, it means again. Revise, return, reveal, reform, regenerate. Return means again. I need to return. I need to turn again. I need to go back. You know, in order to go home, we have to have left home. In order to go home, we have to have left home. And when we leave home, we come to a place where we realize just how much we have actually lost. And in that moment of clarity and realization, we have this sudden sense, Lord, I need your help. I need your love and your guidance. Interesting that in that low place, no one gave him anything. Sometimes the external things of this natural world can be very hard. Sometimes we can find ourselves in very tough and challenging situations. And it is in that very moment of difficulty, that moment of great tragedy and hardship, that we open ourselves up to the possibility that maybe, just maybe, God wants us. He wants us back. I will go to my Father's house. And the recognition of wrongdoing is so powerful in this story because he says, I am no longer worthy to be called your son. I'm no longer. That's been squandered and wasted. And while he no longer has the stuff, he's spent that. Everything that remains in the Father's house is the elder sons. Reunification. Reunification. Bring the best robe for my son. Not servant. My son. He was dead and he's alive. He was lost and is found. We need to celebrate. If all these three stories on loss land on one powerful and beautiful idea, it's the sense of it is a time for celebration. When something that we have lost that is so important or integral to our spiritual growth and development is brought back into harmony, there's reunification. When we have been reunited with these powerful elements, it's time to rejoice. Rejoice with me, for I have found my little lost lamb. Rejoice with me, for I have found my coin. Rejoice with me, because this my son was dead and is alive again, was lost and is found. With this last story, the percentage is massive. It's not the 1% of the sheep. It's not the 10% with the coins. It's 50%. The sense of loss is far more profound. And what's interesting in this great sense of loss is that the realization and the reunification comes not from the shepherd or the owner, not from the woman or the owner. It comes from that which has lost itself. I need to go back. The sheep never did that. The coin never did that. The younger son, in a moment of spiritual clarity, realizing his profound sense of loss, realizing just how bleak the world is. He was in want. There's famine. He's hungry. There's nothing to eat. No one gives him anything. I need to go home. What does it look like when we come spiritually home? Come back to the fold. Come back to the love, care, guidance, and protection of the Lord. The Father, seeing his Son a far distance off, runs to him, goes to him, and is immediately so excited. And what he does is he recognizes the need. He needs a garment. He needs sandals. Restored to a position of importance. Put the ring on his finger. And we need to eat. You know, when the Lord, just before the ascension, kind of interesting, two stories. Right before the crucifixion, Last Supper. Need to eat. We need the love. Right after the resurrection and just before the ascension, the Lord invites the disciples, come and have breakfast. Need to eat. Need the love. And the feeling that we have when we have our full bellies of natural food, when we have a full sense of the power and love of God, when we feel that, we have a sense that everything is okay. That we are in a place where we are wanted, welcomed, and loved. That's the invitation of the Lord. He wasn't condemning. He wasn't angry. He wasn't punishing. He wasn't there to point out the very things that we'd known we had absolutely done wrong. He's accepting. He accepts the amends of the younger son. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. As soon as there's a sense that we recognize our wrongdoing and we become accountable for it, notice how powerfully forgiving is God. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those that trespass against us. The moment we are forgiving of all the things that people have done us, real or imagined, God is forgiving of us. There's that reunification. There's a welcoming. There's back underneath the powerful love, protection, and guidance of God's providence. Providence is simply the methodology that God uses to govern the world. Providence is the divine love going out by means of the divine truth and taking care of. That's what God's providence is. That's His government. Divine love, constantly going out, seeing afar off, by means of the divine truth. Bring the robe, bring the sandals, put the ring on his finger. And we need to celebrate. What does it look like when we come home? When we make the decision to be back under the powerful care, guidance, and love of an all-loving God. Amen.